What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to talk about why Dricus Du Plessis is such a special fighter. If you look at Dricus Du Plessis from the outside, you don't see the greatest striker, the greatest grappler. What makes Dricus so special? In that Israel Adesanya fight, he had so many good moments, but he also had moments that he looked like a Looney Tunes character out there, absolutely just flailing his arms around. And he was actually piecing up Adesanya on the feet. So I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper and kind of talk about these different techniques that Dricus Du Plessis uses to ultimately go in there and make himself one of the biggest names in the sport right now. Dricus Du Plessis is on an absolute tear. In his last 3 fights, he has beaten Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland, and Robert Whittaker, some of the best middleweights of all time inside the organization. And truly, Dricus is only on the up for the future. So let's talk about why Dricus Du Plessis is such a good fighter, what he can do to kind of keep this trajectory up in his career, and why this is such a hard style to beat. But before we jump right into the content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you guys are doing all the different type of stuff, please remember to turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always updated and notified when UFC content releases daily. Without further ado, like I said, let's jump right into the video, kind of breaking down why Dricus Du Plessis is so good inside the UFC organization. So I kind of want to break down about what makes Dricus Du Plessis so special inside the octagon, considering that he is not your orthodox type of fighter. And Dricus Du Plessis has a lot of unorthodox things that he does in the stand-up, on the ground game. But first off, there was a couple things that I kind of want to talk about. First off is Dricus Du Plessis' relentless pressure. Dricus has an amazing gas tank, and that was something that was questioned really early on in his career because you could see him gassing out. But apparently, Dricus Du Plessis' nose had some issues, and he got it fixed, and ever since he got his nose fixed, he has been a different breed in the cardio department. Dricus Du Plessis can go all day, every day, and that was shown in the Israel Adesanya fight in the later rounds, especially when he got that submission over Adesanya, someone who has never been submitted before in his entire career. But Dricus is able to put that pace on you like no other fighter inside the organization. Being so chaotic and being so awkward, it's kind of just a lot of stuff coming in your direction at weird angles when you don't know how to kind of deflect it or do stuff like that, and be able to defend against it properly. Now, the next thing that I think really brings Dricus Du Plessis to that next level, and is something that you can see happening in every single fight, is his ability to make adjustments. And I've kind of hinted on this thing being the key source of why Dricus Du Plessis is the UFC champion. Let's start with that Sean Strickland fight. Dricus Du Plessis ended up going in there, losing the first round. There was a massive debate on what Dricus Du Plessis should do in that kind of round. He kind of got pieced up on the feet. He was getting touched with the jab. He was kind of getting beaten a lot, but Dricus Du Plessis and his corner understood that Sean Strickland isn't as effective, obviously, when he's on the ground. So Dricus Du Plessis kept setting up different takedowns to get the shots, get the fight to the ground, to ultimately secure ground time and do effective striking and effective grappling to ultimately throw Sean Strickland off. One of the best things that you can do for your striking game is implement grappling into the game plan. Like someone like Islam Makhachev against Dustin Poirier. Dustin was so worried about the different takedowns from Islam that Islam was able to piece him up on the feet. Considering that Dustin Poirier is one of the best boxers inside the organization, it was an absolutely incredible thing to see that a known wrestler and sambo fighter in Islam Makhachev was able to do that to one of the best boxers the organization has in it right now, even though Dustin is a little older. And that same thing goes for Dricus Du Plessis versus Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland 100% won the fight on the feet when Dricus wasn't implementing the takedowns. But when Dricus was able to throw the takedowns and do some unorthodox, unconventional stuff, he made the fight a lot closer, considering that he was throwing Strickland off his path before anything else happened in this fight. Like I said, kind of being able to implement different techniques, different strategies to ultimately push the fight into a comfort zone of you, but make the opponent unwary, uncomfortable, not know what's coming in their direction. It truly allows that fight to go a lot smoother than you previously could have thought. So genuinely, I think Dricus Du Plessis is so good at adapting on the fly, being able to recognize what's coming in his direction to ultimately be able to fend off and work for the future. Also, I think that Dricus Du Plessis and his game planning coaches, and this is another thing that makes Dricus so well, is kind of that game planning he does prior. In that Robert Whittaker fight, he was able to study Jared Cannonier and of how he was able to dismantle and get a round off Whittaker in that main event, or a co-main event, my fault, at UFC Abu Dhabi. I think it was like 251, 252, some number like that. But Cannonier was able to do some great work against Whittaker because of that jab that he had, and that's what Dricus knocked Whittaker down with, was the jab, and ultimately led to the finishing sequence. I think Dricus has such just a knack for looking and being able to analyze fights to truly understand what their opponent's tendencies are doing, what he needs to do to be able to combat that, and what he can do to truly excel himself, to put himself in the best position to fight. And lastly, I think the biggest thing that helps Dricus Du Plessis inside the octagon is kind of his work ethic. And what's crazy is Dricus Du Plessis is a fighter who's made of intangibles, and sometimes those fighters are the hardest to beat inside the organization. But Dricus Du Plessis' work ethic is something that is rarely seen inside the organization. He is there night till day, knowing that he's the first South African champion, knowing that he's one of the greatest UFC fighters currently inside the organization, and truly he has every single opportunity to take his reign in the UFC middleweight title just to another level if he can keep defending the title. Beating Whittaker, beating Strickland, and beating Adesanya are amazing wins for Dricus Du Plessis, but if he can keep stacking them up and putting them back to back to back, that is something that is insane for Dricus to do. And like he says, he always focuses on work, and he's going to put 120% into every single fight camp that he has to know that he is going to be prepared for this fight, and that one guy has to go in there and die, and Dricus Du Plessis is not going to be that different individual. Fighters who don't necessarily have the best part in their game, let's say Dricus Du Plessis isn't the best striker or isn't the biggest grappling threat, tend to get overlooked inside the organization. That is something that is super bad to do. I originally thought Dricus Du Plessis wasn't that good when he came up and beat Darren Till and he beat Derek Brunson. But once I kind of saw him systematically dismantle Robert Whittaker, not using the essential skills of boxing he has, but doing it in a technical, just absolute masterclass of a way, being able to stick that jab on him, being able to do some simple takedowns and be able to control on the ground. Dricus Du Plessis is one of the most highly intelligent fighters inside the organization, and him being able to do it every single time in and out of the octagon is going to make him one of the most consistent fighters in the organization. And that is something crazy to say, considering that you only fight, let's say, 2 or 3 times a year. And if you have a bad night, it's not like you can flip back over like in an NBA game, NFL game, MLB game, something like that. You have a game maybe a day later, that same night, 3 days later, something like that. But Dricus Du Plessis understands that he might have a fight every 6 months, and he goes in there and proves to every single individual that he is the best Dricus that he could possibly be, and that is the best thing that Dricus does. All those intangibles add up. Like you said, he might have a goofy striking style. He might have a bunch of different things not in his way. But Dricus Du Plessis has power. He has speed. He has that unconventional ability. And Dricus Du Plessis, more than anything, has the heart to go in there and ultimately just systematically dismantle so many different middleweights inside the world. There is no way that I would pick Dricus Du Plessis to lose to any middleweight inside the organization right now. Yes, I think a Whittaker rematch would be such a fun fight because Whittaker is so good. I do think that Strickland's a very hard fight for Dricus Du Plessis, just kind of that style. I know Khamzat Chimaev hasn't been tested, but this fight with Whittaker coming up is going to be a big thing for that. But I do think that Dricus Du Plessis has a shot, at least. You cannot count him out of any single fight in the middleweight division. And in my opinion, I would pick him to beat every single middleweight in the world right now. Dricus Du Plessis is just a special fighter inside the organization, and truly, he is one of a kind, considering that he has built his entire legacy and career off the fighting intangibles rather than the tangible skills that are needed. He's kind of using his IQ. He's using that things that fighters don't really tap into, and using the things that fighters aren't inept to using originally allows him to gain this massive advantage inside the organization every single time that he steps in the octagon. Dricus Du Plessis, like I said, is one of the smartest fighters inside the organization, and he is truly going in there and putting on a masterclass in that middleweight division right now. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section about Dricus Du Plessis and this take that he kind of has a lot more intangibles and he flows off the intangibles more than the tangible abilities. I know a lot of people are talking about Dricus Du Plessis' crazy striking ability, especially against Israel Adesanya. There's some hilarious pictures out there with Dricus and his arms just flailing out around him. But one thing you cannot discredit is he ultimately did get the win against Israel Adesanya, and he was actually kind of outstriking him in some categories because of how chaotic and frantic he was inside the octagon. Dricus Du Plessis is one of the most special fighters inside the organization. He truly has so many different things in his life that he can really go and do, especially since he is an absolute menace in there, such a strong individual inside the octagon. He has everything that a champion could ever want. He has the will, he has the IQ, he has the power, and truly he has a massive influence on mixed martial arts right now, considering that he's the first South African champion. He's kind of embracing that. He's embracing the villain role, and one amazing thing is he comes with the trash talk every single time. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoy the UFC content, and while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about the UFC content releasing every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.